All right, everyone, we're going to finish up the notes here. This is the last big idea behind sampling and taking a sample. Remember, yesterday we had 3 styles: voluntary response sample, convenience sample, both of which are biased, and then the last option, a simple random sample, which, collecting information from random people, you can get those random people with your calculator or computer. These are the steps for how to do it manually with paper. Okay? So if you remember, we have a table of random digits, and I showed that to you yesterday. When we are using it, the first step that we need to do is label. So if I had to boil it down to one word, it would just be to label. Okay? What we're doing when we are labeling is we are assigning a number to each individual in the population. Okay, in the whole group. So everyone gets their own unique number, their own identifier. All right? Now, if you're thinking about this, there are good ways to do that and bad ways. One way that would be biased is if I picked people to give them a certain number, maybe based on like who my favorite student would be. Okay, and so I would go to this first student and give them number 1 because they're the best. And then I go to my next favorite student. You know, you're doing a great job, but they get number 2. And as I keep going, I give that last number to the student I don't like. That's not a good way to label your population. That's biased towards my preferences. And so we want to try to label in a way that is unbiased. And so doing that in a method that takes the preference out of it, maybe your list is just alphabetical. Okay, that's not based on anything I chose. And so the people at the front would get lower numbers, people at the end would get higher numbers. All right? If I labeled them based on age or some quality that is not my personal preference, that's the best way to label. Now typically, and this is the important part, you want everyone to have the same number of digits for their number. Try to squeeze it in. Same number of digits. Okay, and when I say this, typically I mean you will have to have like 2 digits per number, or everyone has to have a 3-digit number, and we'll see here in some of the examples how that works. So our second step, the first was label, the second step is to use the table. All right, so they rhyme, label, and then table. So we're going to use the random digit table to select the individuals at random. Oops. Yeah, individuals. And so if we need a sample of 20 people, we would have to select 20 individuals. And so we're going to see this step where we collect those individuals from the table. We're almost like slicing the table of random digits up. We're snipping it. We're cutting it and selecting the people based on what number we're seeing. So down below we have 4 examples to get a grasp on labeling and tabling. The first example, our population is 57 people. Now 57 people has 2 digits. If that's everybody, we need to label them in a manner that gives everyone a 2-digit number. And so I would do that by starting with 01 for the first person, 02, 03, 04, and I go all the way up to 57. Okay, now there's some people who would argue you want to start at 00 and then go all the way up to 56, and that's going to be the same thing, same outcome. It's just personal preference. I like to go from 1 to 57 because it makes sense. All right. So any number between 01 and 57 is a person I could ask. And we'll see here in a second, on the table of random digits, I read from left to right, and I need to snip and pick out people that work. So the first snip happens here, 2 digits, 2 digits. 19, I could ask that person. There is a 19th person in that range. The next snip, 22, would work. I could ask the 22nd person in that range. If I snip, the next amount is going to be 39. You get to span across the gap. 39 is a person who exists. If I look at the next snip, 50, that person exists. So right now I've asked 1, 2, 3, 4 people. If I needed to sample 4 people, I'd be done. All right, but usually you want to sample more people than just 4. So if I kept going, 34 works. Here's where it gets interesting. 05 is someone who's in the lower end of the list. That'd be the 5th person, person number 5. Okay, 75. Uh-oh. We see that 75 does not fit within the range. It's too big. That person doesn't exist, so I can't use that number. That actually happens here with the next person as well. 62 is someone who doesn't exist. 87 doesn't exist. But then if I keep going, person 13 would exist, and so I could ask them. They're in the range. Okay, so I would have, let's see, 5, 6, 7 people in that sample. If I needed 10, I would just go down to the next line and just keep on working left to right and slicing and choosing based on the numbers we get. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Example number 2, population is 199 people. That is 3 digits. So I'm going to label them 001 to 199 and split my list into triples. 192 is okay. 239 is not a person I could ask. They don't exist. Same thing with 503, 405, 756 is a no-goer. 287 is a no-goer. If I look at this next spot, I actually will get somebody because I could have 130, 131, 132, all the way up to 139, and that would be a person who is within the correct range. So depending on the population, you might get a lot of people in a line, or you might only get like 1 or 2 people, and so it's going to take a long time to do this manually. That's one of the advantages of using your calculator, is because it gives you a good number every single time. All right, but it's nice to have this skill just in case you need to do this in college. Third, population is 5 people. That is 1 digit. And if I'm going to be labeling them, I don't have to put a 0 in front. I can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So splitting my list is just single-digit numbers. Can I ask the first person? Yes. Can I ask the 9th person? No. I can ask the 2nd person. And then what do I do if I get a duplicate? 2 appears again. Sometimes you will ask that person a second time. You will get their opinion twice. If you're just taking a poll, a survey, a lot of times that's okay. But if we are selecting people at random to be on like a board of trustees, one person cannot take up 2 spots. And so that would be a case where you cannot have doubles. So it's really a situation thing. It's the context. Sometimes doubles are fine, and other times doubles are a no-go. You can't have double or a person in 2 spots at one time. 3 would be an okay number. 9 is not okay. And you can see we just keep on going. One thing that's unusual is if I get 0, 0 is not a number that I had used. Okay? If I had maybe labeled people from 0 to 4, then that means I could choose that person. But based on our numbering in the beginning, person 0 doesn't exist. Okay? And so I would just keep on going, eliminating numbers based on how many people I need. I could stop early, stop later. Just depends on sample size. Last example, population 6,734. That is 4 digits. Okay? So I need to snip, and I'm going to go 0001, the first person on the list, all the way up to 6734. Splitting those digits, the first number, first person, 1,922 is an okay person to ask. 3,950 is also okay. 3,405 is an okay person. They exist. 7,562, though, is not within my range, and so I cannot ask that person. They don't exist. There is not that number. Same thing with the 8,713. So splitting up your table of random digits is very important. If you need a sample of like 5 people, you would keep going. Okay, you'd read the next line, read the next line. You just have to go as far as it takes. All right. A lot of times, though, we end up using our calculator. The reason this is important is that this will be the style of question I give you on the quiz. So hopefully this gives you enough background to do the homework. There is a problem on the homework that is similar to this. The practice also has a table of random digits. So don't worry about the rest of the notes. That is kind of a situation that just is a good discussion to have. You have all the information, and so if you have questions, feel free to email me, or on Monday I'll be back and you can ask me then. Okay. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you later.